The Red Death had long devastated the country. No pestilence had ever been so fatal or so hideous. Blood was its avatar and its seal, the redness and the horror of blood. But the Prince Prospero was happy, dauntless and sagacious, so retired to the deep seclusion of one of his castellated abbeys. Prospero. There were many who would have thought him mad, but his followers felt that he was not, and for them he organized a masked ball of the most unusual magnificence. There was much of the beautiful and some of the bizarre. There was music, and the abbey was amply provisioned. The outside world would take care of itself. But in a dark corner of the great hall stood a gigantic clock of ebony. Its pendulum swung with a dull, monotonous clang, and for as long as it sounded, nobody made a move. But as the last chime faded, the revelers again broke out in dance, and so the feast carried on into the night. But freezing each hour as the clock sounded. Until there commenced the sounding of midnight upon the clock. Only this time it had 12 gongs to go through. And thus it happened that there were many individuals who had become aware of the presence of a masked figure. The figure was tall and gowned, and shrouded from head to toe in the habiliments of the grave. And with a slow and determined movement, it began to make its way to the prince. Who dares? Demanded Prospero. But the figure remained silent and responded in a quite different manner. And in death fell Prince Prospero. Now they knew. Red Death had come like a thief in the night, and one by one dropped the revelers in the blood-bedewed halls of their revel, each in the despairing posture of his fall. And darkness and decay and the Red Death held illimitable dominion over all.
Hello and welcome to our final lecture on the Masque of Red Death, which I have titled Symbols and Death, Oh My! And now we'll find out why. Alright, and first our question is, what makes a story good or bad? And how does the author enhance the story's power? In other words, what is the art of the short story? So, I hope everybody liked this story. I hope you think it's good. It is the most difficult story we'll probably read, so don't worry about it. I know it was a very difficult story, and I hope you liked it. So let's talk a little bit about what Poe did to make this story good, or sadly, if you feel so, bad. So was it a good story? I like this story because, first, Poe uses fantastically good descriptions. In other words, adjectives. When I read this story, I can see this palace. I can see these parties. And the very first line, where he says, the Red Death had spread across the country, blood was its avatar. It would kill you in 30 minutes. I can feel that. Right? I get an idea of what's going on. In graven image, there were no descriptions. In the graven image story did everything with talking. But Poe, in the Masque of Red Death, has almost no talking. He just tells you the scene. Right? He describes the setting. So I think first he used good descriptions. Next, I think Poe uses symbolism. And we'll talk more about this in just a moment. I hope you know what the symbol is. If you answered the clock, you are correct. And Poe uses personification, which we will talk about in just a minute. If you said, or if you think, at the end of the story, the masked man who comes in is a personification of Red Death, you are correct. First, let's look at some of Poe's good descriptions. And these are kind of random, right? I just selected them, but let's look real quick. He says, the redness and horror of blood. In this first page, right, the introduction, we see very good writing. It says, there were 7, an imperial suite. So this means the rooms, right? This palace has 7 rooms. And if something is an imperial suite, it is very nice. This is a very, very big, beautiful palace. A tall and narrow Gothic window. And when he describes the rooms, right, he tells about the color. He tells about the windows. He even tells about the atmosphere or the environment. Right? We know all the rooms are happy except one room. He tells us about this palace so that when you're reading in your mind, you can see it. Amid the profusion of golden ornaments. So here we know this palace is bling bling, right? It is shiny, it is expensive, it is nice, it is beautiful, it is magnificent. We have a profusion, right, or an abundance, right? Many, many, many gold ornaments. So again, Poe is doing a good job describing this palace. There were much glare and glitter, much of the wanton, much of the bizarre, something of the terrible. Let's read this one more time. There were much glare and glitter, much of the wanton, much of the bizarre, something of the terrible. Now, we're starting to think, I hope you're starting to think, I am, this palace is big, it's nice, it's beautiful, but it's also a little bit weird. It's also a little strange, right? You have much of the bizarre, much strange things, something of the terrible, means maybe barbaric. Right? And Poe does say the prince had barbaric ornaments, barbaric decorations. So, the first thing that Poe does in this story to help us is give us really good descriptions. The English in this is very difficult, but I hope everybody can understand. This is a nice big palace. It's beautiful, but this prince is weird. He has strange decorations as well. All right, next I want to go over quickly some symbolism. I think everybody knows what a symbol is. A symbol is something that represents something else. Right? A cross, like that, could be a symbol of Jesus. So let's look at our first symbol. I know often in Korea people think this is a symbol of Buddha, but this is not. This is Hitler's flag. The symbol is turned. So this could be a symbol for hate, hatred of Jewish people. This could be a symbol of war and violence. In America, when people see this, it's most often a symbol of Adolf Hitler and hate. And symbols can be very, very powerful. Right? If there's a man with this tattoo on his arm or this symbol on his jacket, I don't want to talk to this guy. Let's look at a few more symbols. Okay, perhaps when you see this, right, the flag is a symbol of America. The Statue of Liberty is a symbol of America. Some people would think a symbol of freedom, right, a symbol of good things. Other people would say it's a bad symbol, right, depending on where you live and what you think of America. This can be both a good symbol or a bad symbol. I suppose the same is true of the Hitler flag. So I think these, right, would be a symbol of Korean history, Korean culture, Korean mythology or folklore. I think everybody knows, right, a Christmas tree is a symbol of Christmas. Or if you're religious, if you believe in Jesus, this can be a symbol of salvation, of religion, of Jesus' birthday. So we have some very powerful symbols here. Last time I put the lotus up. This lotus flower is a symbol in Buddhism that means enlightenment, right? Or you are awakened, because the flower comes from the dark, under in the muddy water, out, opens, and sees the light. So this is a symbol for enlightenment in Buddhism. And Batman. Batman, this symbol could be one of justice, of rightness, of stopping criminals, stopping bad people. Right? So I think everybody understands the idea of a symbol. So our question then becomes, in our short story, what is our symbol? And I think Poe uses symbols very well in this story. Our symbol is our clock, right? This big black ebony clock. And it's a symbol of time. Now, Poe did something in this story perhaps you did not notice, but I did notice. In the story, and this is a quote, it says, which embraced 3,600 seconds of the time that flies. And notice the T in time is a big T. This is an uppercase T. So, I wonder, why did he do that? Why did he leave this T uppercase? And I think, again, he's trying to tell us the significance of time. We have a happy place, but outside there's a disease. And inside, when the clock chimes, doing, doing, I think you know, time is coming. It will get here. The clock reminds you every time you hear it. Ding, ding, ding. you think, I'm running out of time. It's getting low on time. So this is our big symbol here, and Poe uses this very well, because we have this beautiful, happy palace with all these people dancing and drinking and committing debauchery and whatnot. But then the clock chimes, and everybody is quiet. Everybody's scared. I don't know if they're scared. I think they're scared. And you know, time's coming. I will die. So I think Poe does an excellent job, because he has this beautiful setting, and he puts this one symbol in it. And I think all of you understand when that clock rings and they stop, they know, I'm going to die. I don't know 1 hour later, or 2 hours later, or 1 year later. I can't stay here forever. I have time. And the clock is our symbol of time. And time is going to kill them. Okay. So, what does the clock symbolize? I think we told you. Time, death, decay, reality. So when this clock chimes, it is a symbol that time is coming, death is coming, decay, which means a slow death, is coming, and reality is coming. So I think this is very, very good. This is part of Poe's art, no doubt. Also, personification. If you don't know this word, it's very easy to remember, because you have here the word person. So personification is when I give things that are not people the characteristics of people. So for example, I might say the flowers are dancing. Well, no they're not. Only people can dance. What I mean is the flowers are pretty. The wind is moving the flowers. Or I could say the moon is smiling. No, it's not. Moons don't smile. But people do smile. So I give a human, a person thing, to something that is not a person. So in this picture here, I can say the tree is dancing. Right? The tree is a woman. No, it's not. But it looks like a woman, so I say so. Or here with our monkey. Right? Monkeys do not wear suits and say hello. People wear suits and say hello. So I've given the monkey personification. Or even for little children. Right? Here we have an animation movie called Cars, where I make the cars look like people. The cars talk. The cars are happy. The cars are sad. Well, no, they're not. They're a car. And finally, in our last one here, we have death being personified. In other words, dead people do not come get you. They do not talk to you. They're dead. But in our case, we do have some personification because the disease is personified. So, toward the end of the story, we have a masked man who appears. This masked man is not a man. It is a representation or a symbol for the disease. In this case, the disease has a face. It walks, it talks, it kills. So we have personified the disease. And I hope everybody knew when you were reading this, when the man comes in and walks and nobody will stop him and he kills the prince, He's not a man, he is the disease. The disease being portrayed as a man is personification. I have taken a disease, which is not a person, and I have given the disease human qualities, which make it like a person. Okay. So, what's the author's art, right? How does Poe do this? Well, what is the most powerful? I think setting and symbolism. The personification in the end is powerful, but I think the symbol of the clock and the setting are the most powerful, because you have this evil, scary, obvious symbol in this big, beautiful palace. This story is not simple like graven image. Remember, in our graven image story, almost everything was done with conversation, talking. The setting was not much, a restaurant. The symbols, well, there were not any symbols in graven image. But here we have a very different art. Poe is much more philosophical. Right? He's participating in philosophy, the philosophy of time. So I think this big, beautiful palace and this one scary clock, this symbol, and the personification as well. So how does the author make his main point? Again, I think our main point is you will not escape this disease by having a party. You know, if you want to escape this disease, go to the doctor. But having a party will not help you. So this is kind of small. Let's look at this. So obviously the prince dies. This is important. But the author, Poe, uses symbolism, the clock, and personification of the disease to destroy the happy, elaborate setting. Without the clock, this would just be a party. So think about that for a minute. Without the clock, this would just be a party. So, no clock means no story. Or, well, not a very good story. Our clock is what reminds us outside things are bad. People are dying. Every time the clock hits, dong, dong, it stops, and we remember, oh yeah, outside of the castle, outside of the palace, people are dying. And it's a disease. You can't always stop a disease. So, the most powerful setting and symbolism will include personification. How does he make his main point? Well, the prince dies, but he uses a symbol and personification to kill the prince. Remember, no clock, no personification, it's just a party. Right? There's not much story there. So our conclusion, almost finished. We have read a story that uses time and death to destroy the prince and destroy the prince's party. The author's art of the short story includes symbolism and personification. He inserts a significant, scary object, the clock, into an otherwise happy environment to demonstrate that people, even princes, cannot escape death. Now don't forget also that Poe has very good descriptions. So, if you are feeling ambitious, maybe you can read this story one more time now and look at the symbolism and personification. I know this was a very difficult story, Right? So his art, symbols. Symbols, 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 no symbol, not a very good story. Alright, so for next time, we are going to read a story called The Chrysanthemums by Steinbeck. It is on page 337 through 348 of your book. Before you read The Chrysanthemums, define open endings. Do a Google search or a Naver search and just find this term, open endings, and see what you think about it. But before you start reading The Chrysanthemums, define open endings. Guys, goodbye. See you next time. I hope you enjoyed the story. Please start reading The Chrysanthemums by Steinbeck, and we will see you next time for our vocabulary review. Ta-ta. Bye-bye.